Broad Street Review Podcast, Philly's online hub for arts, culture, and commentary, where art and ideas meet. I am your host, Darnell Radford. Today on the podcast, Jacqueline Goldfinger stops by to talk about her play, BABEL, which will be on stage at Theater Exile in February as part of what is shaping up to be a national tour. We even take some time to talk about her playwriting development initiative page by page. So here's my interview with Jacqueline Goldfinger. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am somewhere in Philadelphia. I'm probably in one of the Rep Radio studios. Follow along, listen along. But I am sitting across from a great friend, and I always love sitting and chatting with her, and it is playwright Jacqueline Goldfinger.
Hey, Darnell. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
It's always a joy.
It's been a minute, but I've been following your journey.
You've been busy, I've been busy, but I'm glad we actually get to see each other.
Yes, definitely. So how's life?
Life is good. It's wild. And it's lovely. And since I last saw you, I started teaching at Temple.
Cool.
So I want to shout out to all my awesome Temple undergrad and grad theater makers.
Go Owls.
Love you.
Getting it out on those stages.
Yeah.
That's great. So I think the last time we spoke was the arsonist.
It was.
And I think we did like a lunch meeting. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I got to see that piece, of course, and I had the music, and it's like, oh wow, this is such a great. I love the fact that created this world that we could escape in, and that's what we do. That's what artists do. So it's fun to be in the worlds that you create, and I'm interested to dive into this one too. So tell us about this piece, and I'm gonna have you say the name just to make sure that I get it right.
Sure. So it's BABEL.
Okay.
Which will be in Philadelphia at Theater Exile.
Okay. All right. And so tell us about BABEL, and then we'll get into sort of its journey. Tell us about the piece in general, and then we'll talk about what its origins are.
Sure. So BABEL's a dark comedy, and it is about two couples in the near future who both get pregnant at the same time. And they're very excited. They've been friends forever. They've both wanted babies, but they go in to the doctors and they each get a eugenics or a genetic test on each baby, and the results are very different. And so it's about these two couples trying to figure out how many decisions do you make from these tests? How much do you just let nature take its course? There's a 6-foot stork who wants to be a comedian who helps them along their journey because storks deliver babies.
Yes.
So there's definitely a funny, surreal twist to it. But at the heart, it's really a love story between old friends and new parents coming together.
Mm-hmm. And what inspired a piece like this?
Sure. So I got the idea, almost 7.5 years ago. It just took a while to write because, as you know, Darnell, I have twin 7-year-olds. So when I was pregnant, we were surprisingly pregnant with twins. Surprise! Which was scary and exciting. And along our pregnancy journey, we got a couple of test results that were scary, that indicated there could be problems with my son. Now, don't worry. As Darnell knows, my son is perfectly healthy now. He's happy. He's obnoxious. He says poop a lot, like everything a 7-year-old is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was really scary. And I had not realized how far genetic testing has come, how much we can know, or at least have the probabilities in terms of what could be wrong with a child in utero. And I had no idea that that is where genetic testing was going, which is because in utero, you can catch things early. For example, we can already test for spinal bifida in utero, and we can go in and there can be in utero surgery
Wow.
for spinal bifida babies so that when they're born, the physical ailments of spinal bifida are no longer there, and you just have to deal with the mental cognitive issues.
Okay.
So, I learned all about these tests and about what people were testing and trying to come up for the future. And then I gave birth to 2 babies. And so I spent the next 5 years until I sent them off to kindergarten working on other things and trying to keep them alive, which we did. Hooray.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until about 2 years ago when I was able to go back to the idea, and even in just the couple of years that I'd been walked away from it, already there had been so many scientific advancements in terms of what we know and how detailed testing gets. And because America has fewer restrictions than Western Europe, we are becoming the reproductive technologies capital of the world. Because in Western Europe there are regulations around certain things, and that is all like debated. How good is that? How bad is that? How much should we know?
Yeah.
But the reality is that if you want to work in the West, you come to America to do reproductive technology. So it seems like a really great time to write the play because we're right on the cusp of a major sea change in what we can know about in utero children.
Now I know there was some news in the past about a I guess it was a scientist who was able to change the genetic makeup to get rid of a
CRISPR.
Yeah, to use that. Is that sort of in the same realm?
It's in the same realm. So CRISPR technology, there was a scientist in China that said that he had spliced genes to create, I think it was a new sheep or a pig and then a baby. Whatever it was, the thing with CRISPR is that, because you're splicing genes and we don't know all the repercussions of what that can do, as opposed to just reading them, you actually read them and then cut them apart and then put them back together.
Yeah.
That would be like a next step after we have the testing down. Also, you're pointing to a really good reason why a lot of reproductive technology experimentation is going on in the U.S. because places like China and India that have much more lax scientific rigor, no one has been able to repeat those experiments. So we don't know if they're real or not.
Okay.
But what we do know is that in America, are testing babies in utero for certain syndromes, for certain DNA makeup, for certain genetic things, is growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah. I see so many benefits to this. Like if you know what's coming up, you can kind of head them off. Like something that you could learn maybe in your second month, would be something that you could take care of, you would have maybe 6 to 7 months to kind of prepare.
Absolutely.
But I feel like somebody who's thinking about it just on the surface is saying like, oh, so we can change our babies now?
Well, already there are, if you pay enough, there are services that can raise the probability of you having a baby with certain physical traits. So if you want your baby to have darker hair, there are very expensive reproductive technology services where they can mess with your egg and sperm and what that makes and actually give you a higher probability of that. So what's wild is the physical is already there. And that's the question you're asking is the question that I think we need to be asking next because I think it would not be good to be blindsided by this technology. That I think we need to ask now the questions that the play asks, which is, what are ranges of normal? What do we do with this information? Is it all used for educational purposes to help parents and teachers figure out how to support the child? When we can do this like 2 to 3 weeks, if someone decides to do IVF or knows early, when we can do this at 2 or 3 weeks, is it better for the pregnancy to be terminated if there are certain ranges that we can't predict? So all of those questions. The parents in the show each make their own decision, so it is a complete story that I think you feel dramatically satisfied with. But I don't put any judgment on any of the answers. It's really more about each of the 4 parents actually has a different answer, which is a really interesting thing to play with. And for me, what's important is that people enjoy the show, because as you know, I do think that theater can entertain and also be provocative. So I hope it's entertaining for folks, and also they leave thinking more deeply about these questions, because it's a coming.
Yeah. I'm just in my head, I'm just going rhetorical.
Yeah, I know, for sure, rhetorical.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's great for a piece like this to be coming out of theater exile, because I feel like when you walk out of exile, it's like that. You know, the conversation and the questions that this piece pose, you know, they don't end at the curtain.
Yes.
You know, we're walking out of the theater, we're talking about it the next day, you know, we're talking about it 3 days down the road if somebody's on the fence about whether they're going to go or not. And then through all of that, we're forming a more thorough kind of opinion of our experience as a whole. I mean, I feel that way everywhere, but I feel that specifically when I'm coming out of exile. So they do a good job curating over there.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit. This show is a perfect fit for them. Deb Block has been incredible. The Exile team has been incredible. And, I mean, Deb Block saw a reading of this at, shout out to awesome theater people, at Gail's house. Gail let us do a little reading in her living room to showcase the piece to some artistic directors and leaders in the community. And Deb came up to me immediately afterward and said, I love this, I want to share this with my staff. And then 3 days later she called and said, I want to produce it. Like,
great. She
was phenomenal.
Yeah. So let's talk about the journey, because right now you're on like a national tour for this piece, which is kind of fun. Like,
that's awesome.
Jackie Goldfinger, rock star, playwright, mom. I mean, mom first, rock star, playwright.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So before we get into the national tour, let's talk about the first presentations and all the fancy notifications that are tied to this as well. Yeah. So if I have my notes right, in 2017, the Independence Foundation Fellowship in the Arts.
Yep. Shout out to Independence Foundation right here in Philly. They gave me a fellowship that allowed me to do a year exploration, and part of the exploration allowed me to do research for this piece.
So what does that research look like? Is it just, I mean, Google searches? Or are you going to fancy libraries?
Yeah, it totally starts with Google searches and fancy libraries. And I was very lucky. You know, we have Penn in town, we have the Temple Med School, we have the Jefferson Hospital, which is also a research and a educational institution. So, and they all have guest library passes, and they were lovely to grant me guest library passes. And then once I did some research, I was able to connect with scientists at those institutions who gave me more information and some idea on the moral and ethical implications, and then also pointed me towards the American Medical Association, which has published op-ed pieces on this type of technology. And so I read all those op-ed pieces that were really about what do we need to think about as medical professionals, which really helped inform what I knew the parents would be told in these situations. Yeah. So I'm deeply grateful to the medical community in Philly, which was so open and welcoming.
Yeah, that's great. And then on to the Smith Prize for Political Theater. Tell us about that.
For sure. So the Smith Prize was fantastic, and basically it gave me money to help continue development. So they liked the idea, they liked the first pages of the script, but we needed some time. So it was interesting because this is a political play, but it isn't a political play. Like, it's not a political play that carries a banner. It's more of a political play that's like, here's when people come into contact with technology, which comes into contact with public policy. How does that change the individual? How does that inform the individual? So I was thrilled to get it, and that gave me a 2-week residency at Florida Studio Theater in Sarasota, where I could take all of my draft pages and all of my research and combine it into a first full draft, and then put it on its feet on the reading stage.
Yeah.
So that was a huge important part because there was so much research, and frankly I love my kids but like I could not put my brain around that much research when I
Yeah.
was also being a full-time mom. So
Mommy has to take off her mommy hat for a couple of weeks.
exactly. So I was incredibly lucky that they gave me the prize which came with that opportunity.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, we do hear from, we hear from playwrights who are like, oh, it just poured out of me, and how much was on the page in your first draft that is here now, and sometimes you hear, oh, it pretty much all is there,
Yeah.
or you hear, no, we had a lot of work crafting this together and bringing all these pieces. So I think it's helpful for people to know that these examples of process are not exact.
No.
So hearing that people go through many different things to like research and pull in all the information they need to pull together is actually more like, oh, okay, so this is this is a long game. This isn't like,
For sure.
yeah, I got to put something together today. However, that does not mean you can't run with what you have so far.
Absolutely.
To see what that's doing, how that fares.
Yeah, and especially I feel with research heavy pieces, because there's almost always in the first draft, you either give too much information or too little about whatever the research topic is. And so it takes a long time to refine, okay, how much does the audience need to know?
Yeah.
So that's always a balance.
So I imagine that early research is like, if my audience were scientists, this
Right,
would
exactly.
be a great piece. but they're not all scientists. So.
And they want a human story, right? Like,
Yeah.
I say I only write love stories, and people look at my body of work and they're like, how is that true? I'm like, because at the core, I really do believe what's really important, or what I love to see on stage, is the connection between people.
Yeah.
So no matter how research heavy or socially conscious heavy or whatever it is, my hope is that by the time you see it on stage in full production, that you connect with the characters, and that opens your mind and heart to all these new possibilities.
Yeah. So that's 2017. Crafting all of this, and then
2017, 2018, yeah.
Yeah, and we get into 2018 with the Generations Award. So tell us about that award and what that allowed you to do.
That's great. So basically that allowed me, the Generations Award, you have to have a full draft and you have to have an idea of what you want to fix. People don't like the word fix in theater. What you're going to develop or whatever. It's fucking fixing it.
Where your opportunities are.
Yes, exactly. So that was wonderful, because that then gave me a time to step back from what we'd created at Florida Studio Theater and really reflect on and think about what needed to change, what needed to evolve, what really was capturing audiences' attention in readings, and what was where the attention lagged. And then I got to go up and do another 2-week stint in Boulder at the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, which sponsors the New Generations Playwright Award. And it's great. You're in a room every other day, so you have every other day off to write. So you can hear it in the room with actors and directors and designers, talk about it, go away and write for a day, come in with new pages the next day. And so you do that for 2 weeks. Or 10 days. And that was wonderful, especially in terms of getting the balance of information and factual information versus actual story and the connection between the characters, getting that balance well adjusted.
Yeah.
So I've been incredibly lucky to have all along the way of this people be excited about enough to support it. Because while I can, like, more things like Bottlefly, plays that The Arsonist, like we talked about last time, that are a little more character based and family based. I feel like I could develop those on my own more efficiently, but with something like this, you need support.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
That's when it's, because I consume a lot of theater, and I process that, and I'm thinking about, like, Oh, there's so much. It's like it's far beyond I have an idea, because now you're thinking about how society's conversation is already factored into this idea.
Yep.
And how it will factor into it when it is presented on stage, when it is, because this piece and its journey, has been a multitude of years.
Yes.
But as we get to every time there's an opportunity to experience it, the science has moved forward. The conversation has moved forward as well, and then you're thinking like, wow, I can't. It's interesting how this piece, which was kind of all thought up at this point in time, is still resonating here, but with all this new information.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I thought about is like, okay, I need to set this. One of the reasons it's set in the future and like
Gives you
a
time.
future that you'll recognize, but
Yeah.
still like more like a Black Mirror type future. I don't know if you watch that show or Never Let Me Go type future, just so that it would give us time to have the conversations before it was outdated.
Yeah. And does it, so through all this, well, I guess in these moments, you still have this opportunity to kind of tweak it and keep going. Is it locked now, or is there still an opportunity to say, that fifth scene, I could punch up a little bit more?
Well, I have the Peter Schaefer syndrome. I don't know if you know Peter Schaefer. He wrote Amadeus, the
Yes.
play Amadeus, and he's great. He continued to revise Amadeus almost until he died.
Wow.
So I could tinker with things forever, which is one of the reasons publication is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Because, and I don't have the syndrome so far that I tinker with it after publication, which is what Schaefer would do. And I admire Schaefer tremendously. He's a tremendous dramatist. But, so right now, we are still changing things, but the changes are getting smaller and smaller, like taking a line out here or adjusting a line there. As opposed to what it was earlier, which was, well, we don't need the second half of the scene. We're going to cut 10 pages because we've already said that in a different way.
I'm going to keep it, though, because I like it.
Exactly.
It just won't be a part of this.
Well, that's what I tell writers. Like, they get so precious about having to throw things away. I'm like, darlings, you never have to throw things away.
Yeah.
Just create a folder that's
They're
like
just
stuff
not-
I like that's not right for this piece.
They're just not part of this piece. But
Yeah.
they may have, you may be able to take the concept of this idea and retool it into another story that you're already working on.
Absolutely. So it's so we're at the tweaking stage now, which is a really good feeling because honestly, it's been such a wonderful slog, but at times a slog just because of there's so much information and there's so much unknown that it's nice to start to be able to release this baby into the world and let it walk on its own a little bit.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
So here we are in 2019, and the piece is on the Kilroy's list.
Yeah! Can you believe it?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've been hearing a lot about the Kilroy's list for the last few years or so. It's been way more prevalent than it was before.
Yeah.
So tell us, for the people who vaguely know about the Kilroy's list, what it is and why it matters so much.
Sure. So the Kilroy's list is a list of outstanding new plays written by women in America. Women, actually, women trans and non-binary playwrights in America. So of all the plays that are written, the thousands and thousands across the year, along the year, they bring it down to like the top 20. And the idea is that, or what they think of as the top ones, so that they can help elevate and get more new work into the American theater.
Yeah.
And so it's a tremendous honor, and I was so honored. So what's on the Kilroy's list, that's about 95% what you'll see at Exile. We've really, the last 5%, the last production and this production, we've been tweaking with, as I said, lines and shapes, and but pretty much what was on the Kilroy's list is a lot of what you'll see on stage at Exile, which I'm super excited about.
Right. So as we're talking about the percentages, now we'll move into this national tour, because somebody's looking at this saying, like, how do you even, I mean, we're here in Philadelphia.
I know.
Just to get one company to produce your show, but we've got 5 companies producing the show
So
throughout
far.
this year so far. So
Yep.
how do you begin? How does that come to be? Like, what sort of resources what sort of resources allow for other companies to become aware of your work and add it to their season?
It's a lot of footwork. I've been professionally produced for about 10 years now, and as an independent artist, so I don't have my own company or anything. So for me, it's a ton of footwork. All of these theaters are theaters that I had seen that they produced the kind of type of work, the work in the universe of what I was doing with Babel. And so I queried them or asked friends who worked there if they would pass the script on. In addition, NNPN, which is the National New Play Network. You can go read about them at nnpn.org. Love those folks.
Yes.
Their mission, and they do it extremely well, is to help get new plays out to the American theater and actually get them produced on stages. So also Florida Studio Theater, where I developed Babel as part of the Smith Prize. They're part of NNPN. And so they were able to connect the script with the network, and so the network was able to send it out as well. So we've got 5 announced productions, a couple of ones that can't be announced yet, but will be in the next couple months as seasons are revealed, and then a couple more in waiting. So hopefully, I mean, it would be awesome if people could, knock on wood, like, see this around the country over the next year. Yeah, right? So it's incredible. And it's all about community and the community you build around yourself, because that's what theater really is.
Yeah.
Like, we make things for people we know and we can look in the eye.
We're going to pause for a minute so that everyone can knock on wood
Yes, thank you.
on behalf of this piece.
Blessings, blessings, thank you.
So with the piece being presented all over the country in these places, will you be traveling with the piece as well?
I will be, thanks to NNPN. They have a travel grant. So one of their branches of their mission is not only to get new plays out there, but also to allow playwrights to really make connections around the country so that they can continue to get new plays out. And so I've been awarded travel funds by NNPN, so I will be able to go and see at least 3 of them.
Great.
Which is fantastic. I was just in Kansas City working on it, tweaking it through previews at the Unicorn Theater, where it's running right now. And the Unicorn was great. And then it'll allow me to go to CATF this summer, the Contemporary American Theater Festival, which, for those of you who don't know it, it's kind of like the Sundance of American theater.
Nice.
And it will allow me to go to a theater I'm not allowed to name yet. Sorry. But so it will.
Well, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And it will be wonderful because I learned so much that I'm going to take into my next play by seeing how other artists interpret the work, seeing how audiences react to the work, having those conversations. It's not just about Babel. It's about the journey we're always on in terms of learning about our art and our craft and ourselves.
Yeah.
That it will help me improve my craft for the next play.
And that'll be great. So that's pretty awesome. And not to rush it off the stage at Exile, but
No.
if for some reason, if for some reason at all, you happen to miss Theater Exile's production, it'll be back in the area at Passage Theater.
Yes,
in October.
I love Passage.
Yeah.
I think their new artistic director, Ray Dominguez, is doing a phenomenal job. And shifting the company even further towards new works, which I think is important, and community voices.
Yeah. What has been some of the audience responses to this piece so far that you've experienced?
It's so fascinating because there's so many facets to this piece. There's so many ways for audience members to connect, that there are some audience members that come out and they're really compelled by the couple's love story. love stories, and like what a hard time couples have, even when they're deeply in love, to make decisions when it comes to something as intimate as a child or the prospect of a child.
Yeah.
And then there are some that are a little more intellectual that really come out chomping at the bit, wanting to talk about the moral and ethical conundrums of how good is it that we are going to have so much information. How will that shape our response to the child that's born? Will it damage our response to the child that's born because we know what they're capable of and therefore limit our interactions with them or what they have access to? So it's a large range, but what I've really appreciated and it has been a real anxiety relief is that people find a way to connect with it, because some of the ideas are more intellectual than emotional, and I was worried that people would disconnect, but they're not. They're leaning in, and everyone finds an access point for the play, which is exciting. Even if it's a 6-foot stork who's really funny. Shout out to Frank Nardi, who's playing it at Theater Exile, and Cenk Walker, who's playing it in Kansas City right now. They're hysterical. But some people need that comedy. They need the big laugh so they can kind of take
so
a
they
deep
can digest
breath
the rest.
Yeah, which is nice.
Are you seeing different interpretations of this stork throughout the pieces?
I am, and it's exciting. And you were talking about Theater Exile's ongoing aesthetic choices earlier. And like the one at Exile is so funny, but also a little darker than the one at the Unicorn, which is known for they usually do like off-Broadway and Broadway pieces in Kansas City. So it's a little more broader comedy. And that's fantastic, because that's what I love about theater. If I wanted a piece done the same way over and over, I'd work in TV or film and make a lot more money. But what I treasure is the fact that every audience has their own unique experience. And you can craft the play and directorially shift the play towards what is going to be most effective for your specific community and your audience. So I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wanted, since I have you here, and I think it's been I guess it's been about a year since you started this. Can we talk about Page by Page?
Oh yes, thank you. At Page by Page is a business that I run. It's a Patreon that I run. It's sort of a business. But what it is that I was finding that... So I also teach. That's my day job. I teach at Temple now, but I also do workshops around the country for theaters and community centers and colleges that may not have access to playwriting. And I'm a mentor for the Community Center American College Theater Festival. One of my personal missions is that I believe that we really have to get a wider range of voices involved in American theater if we want it to be as robust and thriving as it should be. And so what I love doing is making sure that people who are interested in writing plays have the tools to write plays and get those plays out there, whether or not they live in an urban center. Because often if you live in some place like Philly, like we're lucky to, or New York or Chicago or LA, or there are a ton of ways for you to get produced, and there are a ton of resources for you. But you go out to Kansas City or to Montgomery, Alabama, or to, and there aren't as many resources. So Page by Page is a resource for theater makers who want to be a part of making new work. And they can live anywhere. But a lot of our programming is online so that you can really get the tools you need from anywhere in the country. And we're already starting to see that pay off. It's only a year old, but already we're having folks who are getting productions in cities where they don't live. And getting, we had somebody just fly to Chicago because she had one of her short plays picked up in Chicago, and she lived in the middle of Texas, and she would have no access to that otherwise. I so apologize for my phone. I thought I turned it off.
She's in high demand.
I'm sorry.
But she's with us right now.
Yes, and that's the most important thing. I apologize.
It's okay.
But really it's about getting the playwriting resources out there to the people who need them. And who want to write plays, because I think that is the way that American theater is really going to be enriched and thrive. Is if there's a huge multitude of voices.
And I love that too, because there are so many resources online too, as in a way, kind of alternates to traditional education. Not everybody is fortunate enough to afford a college program.
Nope.
But they do have this interest, and sometimes they tend to either table these ideas because of lack of resources or not really knowing a direction of where to go. And sometimes there's a little bit of a fear too, where it's
Absolutely.
like, I don't want to sit in a room with a bunch of other people, even though they're all here. We're all here for the same reason. It might be easier for me to just kind of tap into some resource documents, flex this muscle here until I get that confidence to kind of walk into a space with other people. With
Absolutely.
Other people
We have people who are working on their plays and have now submitted them to grad schools for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like that. And also, frankly, not all of us are made to sit in the classroom. I've had some wonderful writers and performers and directors that I've mentored who, like, sitting in the classroom just isn't their thing.
Yeah.
It's not how they learn best. They need to make it with their hands. So it gives access to all of those folks. It gives access to a lot of the disabled community. We have a number of folks who are homebound for one reason or another. We have a lot of our members are parents who are stay-at-home parents who had done theater, and now because they have young children, they have to stay at home, but they want to keep sharp. We have some older retirees who always wanted to do it, but for one reason or another, it didn't happen. They take care of their families. Now their kids are out of the house, and they're coming back.
Now they have the time.
So exactly.
And a lifelong, a life full of stories
to tell, which is, I mean, you think of people like Laura Ingalls Wilder, who didn't start writing till her 60s. Like, there's so many stories like that. That it should be told and could be told beautifully. One of our oldest members just got into a year-long playwrights lab in Boston, and she's had 2 careers, and now this is what she's doing in her retirement. She's awesome.
Wow, that's great.
So it's great. It lends to a real breadth of new voices and new stories on the stage. And also there are people who just want to do it because they enjoy it. They realize they may or may not ever get on the stage, but they're there because they love the art, they love the community. We also, in addition, we have like a private Facebook page. We have a monthly magazine that goes out online. We have a couple of programs that will connect people of similar interests so they can find their own communities. But as someone who's worked as an independent artist and is one of those people who's better at learning hands-on, I'm glad that I can provide this resource at a very minimal cost to folks. We have a sliding pay scale. It's between $4 and $16 a month, depending on what you can pay, and you get to determine that. And really, it's to make sure that, like, I can afford to pay the web server and stuff and get a little bit for my time. But that we can provide this resource is really exciting.
Well, that's really great. And so we'll swing it back around to Babel.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's good. It would have been a wasted opportunity to not talk about how you're helping other aspiring playwrights continue to develop and flex their own muscles. So that's great.
Thank you. And I just flung the hat that my daughter bought for me at Darnell, so I apologize. I know you didn't see that, but somehow I managed to gesture it off.
So the production will be here at Theater Exile from February 13th through March 8th.
Yes.
And you can get your tickets at Theater Exile, and that's theaterexile.org. There's always a ton of opportunity for discussion at Theater Exile, so be sure to check the listings for the dates where that makes sense for you and be part of this conversation.
Absolutely. 2 of our performances are already sold out, and we haven't even gone into tech yet. So
that's great.
Get your tickets now. We want to see you at the theater.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to opening night, and I will be there.
Oh, will you be there?
Yes.
Yay! Oh, I'll finally get to introduce you to my husband. Because he can come to this one.
But I think I've met him before.
Did you meet him earlier?
Yeah,
okay.
I feel like there was a Fringe show that was very kid friendly.
Oh yes, that's right.
That we
You're
saw,
right.
and we were all in that same space. But yeah, it'll be good to meet him again.
It'll be fun.
Is there anything else you wanna chime in on while we're here?
I just want to say, if you're in Philly, we have an incredible, thriving playwrights community, and I hope that you will connect with it. we've got coming up in February, we've got the Philadelphia Asian Theater Artists Initiative, who's doing their New Work Festival. We have Jaska Playworks and the Foundry, who will have play festivals in the spring and summer. So if you're in Philly and you're into new ideas and new plays and new people and all that excitement, I hope you'll come out and join our whole community. It's pretty banging.
And you can continue following Jackie's journey on her own website, www.jacquelinegoldfinger.com.
Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. It's always a pleasure returning to your journey. I think it's just really good to touch base with artists and see where they are right now, and it's just good to kind of keeps all of us kind of on our toes in a sense, where we're just like, oh yeah, so the world's still moving, life's still going. You know, at the moment we are. You know, it's in the back of all of our minds, whatever's going on in Washington. I don't know. It's some crazy thing. I know. You know?
Right.
Yeah, but it's also the beginning of a new decade. It's the beginning of a new year. And I think there are a lot of people out there thinking about, like, what is the potential for this decade? What are things I wanted to do last decade I wasn't able to do? And you know, how do I push myself in those directions? So things like Page by Page be really helpful to do that, and getting out there and experiencing art in real life, you know, is just so inspiring, because I never walk out of an entertainment space without rethinking my own life. I feel like whenever I'm sitting in a theater, that's when I have like the ideas that I should have in a meeting. You know? And I'm just like, I'm not pulling out my document and start writing stuff, but I gotta maybe put down a word or two that's gonna jog my memory when I get back to a space. But I think, like, when I'm in the thick of it, I just feel more inspired, more motivated by it all. And so that's a great thing. And I hope other people feel that way too, because, you know, come you know, be a part of these conversations, and and if you see me in the theater, wave. If you see Jackie in the theater, wave.
Yes,
you know?
come on over and say hi.
People know that you've heard these conversations. But thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I know a lot of people want to get some sound bites from you and figure out your journey as well. So,
well, you're always at the top of the list, Darnell. Thank you.
All right, and don't forget, that is Babel by Jacqueline Goldfinger. It is, if you're listening to this now, you can buy tickets now at Theater Exile, theaterexile.org for those tickets. And buy more than one, because theater is more fun with a plus one.
It is.
And again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
You're welcome.
Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Contribute to find out how. Connect with us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at Broad Street Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.